Okay, so the patch notes are in. I'm extremely excited. Faust has basically got nothing but buffs. The only nerf, I would say, is the banana peel, but it's really not a nerf. I'll go over it later. It doesn't really affect Faust at all. A lot of the issues Faust has, you know, his conversion rate, Scarecrow not being particularly good, you know, not being able to use your items all that effectively, bone crushing, excitement super not being that great, all of it has been buffed. Everything. Faust is going to be a different character on June 10th. I'm no word of a lie. This character is amazing. Before I get too far ahead of myself, I just want to go over some of these changes and give my own opinions on it as to what I think the impacts could be. I don't want to speculate too much on some of it, since some of the things are quite vague and it's hard to get a gauge on how effective it's going to be until I've tested it, but a lot of these changes are really, really promising. With buffs to standing K and fast standing S, Faust can now take the advantage during ground and neutral more easily. Yes, 100%. You could technically win neutral before with Faust, but it wasn't easy and the reward was low, so you couldn't condition your opponent very well. It was either high risk, low reward, or low risk, low reward, and like I said, you could manage it, you could definitely do it, but it was underwhelming. But the changes to Standing K and Forest that I'll go over in a minute are very impactful. In addition, mini Fausts now attack more quickly to better prevent the opponent's approach, making it easier to use what could this be to throw items. Again, this is something I really, really wanted with Faust. Faust is extremely reliant on his items, and one of my wishes for Faust was to have more ways to pull items in more situations at the range he wants to play at. This change directly addresses that issue. Mini Faust is actually busted. If he works the way I think he works, he's going to be busted this patch. The decrease to the attack startup of punch and kick versions of Scarecrow now make them more viable as surprise attacks. To me, this sounds like punch and kick versions of Scarecrow are going to have 21 to 26 frame startups. That's the normal of what Faust has. Thrust has a 26 frame startup. Mix has a 21 frame startup. It has to be 30 frames or below on startup for it to function as a surprise attack. Nagoriyuki's Fukio has a 21-25 frame startup, and you can definitely be surprised by that. So I'm going to assume it's going to have a 20-ish frame startup, which makes this so much more useful. Right now it has like a 63 startup. If the startup is reduced to what I think it's going to be reduced to, punch and kick versions of Scarecrow are going to be phenomenal. You're going to have more ways to use your items in terms of mix-ups. You're going to be able to use the disjoints of punch and kick Scarecrow much more easily. You're going to get potentially meterless conversion routes using punch and kick Scarecrow, where normally you have to PRC this. Right now you have to PRC Scarecrow if you want to convert using it, unless you land like specific counter hits, like 6HS air counter hit. So again, one of the issues I had with Faust was he was very meter aligned. This could address that. So again, it's amazing buff. If I'm stuttering and fumbling my words a lot, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited about this. This is a long time coming for Faust. He's had a lot of issues since launch, and I'm really excited about what he can do now. They can also be better used in tandem with items now, as the attack begins once the button is released. Oh my god. Oh my god. Left-right mix with bomb. Oh, yes please. Left-right mix with mini Faust, with meteors. No meter required. Thank you. Thank you. I can use my items in ways my opponents can't. Faust's position after bone crushing excitement cinematic has been adjusted, making it easier to trigger wall breaks. That is just a nice quality of life change. Bone crushing excitement not breaking the wall is just frustrating at the best of times, but it should have did this from launch, but I'm glad it's finally getting fixed now. Now for the more specific changes. 6B, launches opponent higher. Okay, this is basically just a conversion buff, from what I can understand. So if it launches the opponent higher, you'll be able to convert into mix more consistently, probably from further away. Something interesting this move might have is on counter hit, you might be able to convert into other normals, like 5k 6h for new combo routes. Potentially, I don't know, but it might work that way. Because 2S works that way on counter hit, on air counter hit, but it doesn't work that way on regular hit. So maybe you can get new conversion routes on counter hit. Even if you can't roll, this is still a really good buff for 6p, because if you've watched my montage videos that I've just uploaded, or I'm uploading one today and one tomorrow, around the same time in this video, you'll see in those videos there are clips where I do 6p into mix, and mix completely whiffs, it just doesn't hit. This should stop that from happening. Really nice change. Okay, standing K. Expanded lower hitbox. Yes. Oh. This, to me, sounds like standing K is going to hit crouching opponents. I can't say for certain. It might not work on crouching Giovanna, Jacko, and Faust because they are extremely low to the ground. But it should work on everyone else if I'm interpreting what they want to do with this. This is extremely good for standing K because it has insane reach, it has a lot of active frames, and it covers a lot of screen. Basically, with this buff, it will hit crouches, it will hit standing opponents, and it will hit jumping opponents who are doing instant air dash. So it covers a lot of screen. One of the weaknesses of this move was that it whiffed on crouching opponents, but if this hits crouching opponents now, the biggest weakness of this button is just gone, and it's now just really, really good. Crouching kick. Reduced the attack startup. For those of you that don't know, one sec, I think I've got the page open. For those of you that don't know, crouching kick, sorry, has a 7-frame startup, which means at minimum this is going to be a 6-frame startup move, maybe 5. If this is a 5-frame startup move, this move is going to be absolutely busted. Think about it, right? It hits multiple, where's it gone? There it goes. It hits multiple times. It has a lot of active frames, 3, 6, 8. If it has a 5-frame startup as well, oh, and it anti-airs, the first hit of 2k can anti-air. It will catch backdashing, it will catch jumping, and oh, this move, man. This move, and it's -2 on block. Oh, what a good change to crouching kick. It's not needed, crouching kick was already good, but with this change, if it's a 5-frame startup normal, that's insane. Close standing S, reduced recovery. Right, to me this is, what's it called? Frame advantage on block. So, if you don't know, once again, close S, where's it at? Close S is -4 on block. This makes it not particularly great for strike throw mix, especially considering it has an 8-frame startup, which is also on the slow end. So it's not really good at it, but if this gets reduced to say -2 on block, it's a lot better. A lot better. If it goes beyond that, it's I don't think it will go beyond -2, but if it does go down to -2, it's going to be a lot better for strike throw mix. A lot better. Again, this is one of the changes I actually wanted for Faust, to have a better on-block close S for his strike throw game, so I'm really happy with this one. Fast standing S, reduced recovery, so again I assume that's frame advantage on block. It's currently -13, so I presume it's going to get a couple frames knocked off, maybe -10. That's once again really good for screen control since it's less committal, you have better, what's it called, stagger pressure from it, good change. Reduced frontal hurt box. This is a change a lot of far standing slash buttons are getting, and to me it looks like Arxis wants to nerf 6p without actually directly nerfing 6ps, because a lot of characters seem to be getting disjointed Faust buttons, which is what this is. I'm 100% certain this is a disjointed Faust button. Once again, we'll take a look. Faust's Faust has, where's it gone? Where's it gone? There we go. Has see these blue areas? That's the hurt box. The red area is the hitbox. So it has massive hurt boxes. But if they reduce this, they can reduce this without making the Faust disjointed. But Gold Lewis has the same buff on his Faust, and there's no way you can make this move. There's no way you can reduce the hurt boxes on this move without making it disjointed, so I'm going to assume Faust's Faust is also going to be reduced to make it disjointed. This is really good for screen control because 6p is an absolute pain to deal with Faust. And if you have a button that actually beats 6p, or at the very least can clash with 6p, it's a lot better. So a very good change to the far S there. Crouching S. That must be a typo because there is no SS, and from what the text says, it can't be HS. I'll talk about that in a moment, but now launches the opponent on ground hit. See, 2HS already launches the opponent on ground hit, so it can't be 2. It can't be HS, so it has to be S. Now launches the opponent higher. This is a nice change for the crouching S because normally outside of counter hits or spending meter you can't convert from 2S. It doesn't work. If you do 2S into mix, it doesn't work. If it launches the opponent on hit, you can now convert from it without having to do a 2H or a 5H, which is nice. I wonder how high it will launch the opponent on counter hit, because if it launches them particularly high, you might be able to get closer 6H conversions, maybe. That might be a little bit too much to ask for. We'll have to test that when it comes out. But the now launches opponent higher must mean it launches them higher when you anti-air people. So you get better conversion routes. You might even get, right now, if you get a 2S air hit, you can't get like a closer 6H unless they're really, really high, or you'll land a counter hit. If it launches them higher in the air on regular hit when you anti-air someone, you might be able to get a closer 6H pickup, which means, again, better conversions that don't require meter. Really good buff. The only downside to this is that if 2S launches the opponent on ground hit, you don't get thrust conversions from it when you counter hit on the ground. But overall, I think this is just a buff because they are buffing Scarecrow, so you are going to get different conversion routes now that don't require you to use thrust. So I wouldn't really consider it a nerf in any way. Also, because it launches the opponent higher on air hit, it will be better, or well, not necessarily better, but easier to burst bait with it, since you can, as it says, launch them higher into the air and get away from the burst. So again, just a really good buff. It wasn't really needed. I don't think 2S was a bad button to begin with, but it's a lot stronger now than what I think it used to be. Standing HS follow-up. The opponent can no longer recover after landing on counter hit. So basically this is just a hard knockdown on the 5H follow-up on counter hit. This is a good buff because, like I said earlier, Faust is reliant on items, and I wanted him to have more ways to pull items. This is a new way to pull items, because you are at least guaranteed one item, maybe two. And because this move causes a hard knockdown, it actually creates a good situation for items, because a lot of Faust's items can actually hit the opponent on the ground, OTG. Bomb and Trumpet Wave hit OTG specifically. A couple of the other items do too, but those items definitely hit OTG quite consistently. So you're able to combo into your items in a way here, which is nice. I don't think this is as big a buff as some of the other ones, but it's still a very nice buff just for being able to pull items and use items that are currently on screen. Right, 6HS, I love this one. Added stagger effect. This is massive. My main problem with 6HS was that if you don't have meter or you're able to get specific item interactions or counter hits, 6HS doesn't combo anywhere on screen outside of closest range. The risk reward associated with it was kind of bad. If you did like a 6H into item toss, even if that 6H hit, the item toss could be punished. May, for example, could do S Dolphin after being hit by the 6H and counter hit you out of item toss. It was really bad. But this stagger effect can... I should cover first, stagger effects have more hit stun than regular hits, so basically they don't recover as fast, so you should be guaranteed an item toss every time you hit your opponent with a 6H. You might be able to combo into 6HS from further away due to the increased hit stun of the stagger effect, so mix might be possible from mid-range. You might, this is a stretch, but you might possibly, maybe, potentially be able to combo into thrust from the stagger effect, which is awesome. I don't know if that will be possible. It might be range specific, it might not be possible at all, but it's potentially an option. Also, there's an interesting thing that is possible with stagger effect. Potemkin has this. If Potemkin hits you with Garuda Impact, he can cause a stagger effect and then he can combo into his command grab. Faust will be able to combo into his command grab if he hits you with a 6H. Now, he'll have to be close, and he'll probably have to spend meter fast RCing the 6H to do it. But you can combo into your command grab. It might cost a bar, but that to me is just so worth it, because the situation post snip 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 is just so good for Faust. It's worth the bar of meter in my opinion. This is amazing. You don't actually need to rely on strike throw mix to get your command grab anymore. You can use 6H stagger effect to get your command grab. It's awesome. Awesome change. Jump P now launches the opponent higher with decreased horizontal blowback distance. This is a universal change. I like this change because you might be able to use it in conjunction with items, because I do use a lot of jump normals in my item conversions. Jump K now launches opponent higher. This also, for similar reasons to the jump punch, is a good change because I usually use my jump K option in my combo conversions, so I'll do, you know, jump K, double jump K to keep the opponent in the air long enough to combo into bomb explosions and stuff like that. So this was already possible, but with this new change, it's possibly going to be easier and more consistent than what it currently is, which is really good for Faust. The more item combos I can do consistently, the better for me, honestly. So I'll take this change, even if it's a universal one. Jumping J2K. Okay, increased damage. It's not a big buff, but I'll take it. It's better than what we've got. It doesn't really help high J2K, but from the impression I'm getting, Arxis doesn't want high J2K to be a thing. They want low J2K to be the neutral tool and high J2K to be used on reads to get counter hits. And if that's the case, I'm completely fine with that. I will take the increased damage. It's a nice option. Especially with some of the changes that they've brought to Love Bag, I think this option has gotten, high J2K, I think has gotten not necessarily stronger, but safer. I'll go over that once I get to the Love Bag bit. But yeah, increased damage from a J2K, that's nice. You can also use this in combos, so using J2K in combos now might be more optimal than what it currently is. Jump HS, reduced frontal hurt box. Again, I think this is similar to the Faust, where Jump HS is just going to be disjointed now. This is extremely good. If you haven't, I need to show this. This button is massive. This button is gargantuan. Where's it at? Have I gone past it? Yeah. This button is huge. Massive. If this is disjointed, it's not right now. One sec. There we go. It's not right now, but if this button gets disjointed, even if it's just the tip here, just this little bit, this button is going to be really, really strong as just a preemptive rising jump normal to control the aerial space against characters who like to jump a lot. So, May, Milia, maybe Chip, maybe Gold Lewis, because he doesn't really... He has the air dash height, so this button's really good at controlling that space. If this gets disjointed, Faust's screen control presence, when you factor in the 5k change and the Faust change and the counter hit on the punch normal changes, punch and kick normal changes, his screen control presence has just gone through the roof. It's way better than what it currently is, assuming this is going to get disjointed. I don't see how they could adjust this without making this disjointed, so I'm 99.9% certain it's going to be. Really, really good change on the jump normal. This jump normal had a habit of trading very often for me, so if this can be changed so it clashes more often or just flat out wins, that's going to be a solid jump normal to use at just controlling the aerial space, instant air dash aerial space. Again, it wasn't really a needed change. I didn't think there was much issue with Jump HS other than it traded a little too often. But if this stops that, that's phenomenal. Alright, now for the big one. Mix, mix, mix. Made the timing for controlling Faust's movement direction with back or forward inputs faster. Okay, I don't think this is worded particularly well. To me, what I'm taking from this is that you have more controllability over mix, 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 but possibly, and I might be reading into this a little bit too much or over speculating, but you possibly have a faster travel speed on mix, mix, mix since the forward input registers faster, so it moves faster earlier. If this is the case, you'll be able to combo from mix, mix, mix from further away than what you currently do, which was, again, one of the changes I wanted for Faust, to have more range on his main conversion tool. So, if it works that way, I will be really happy. Plus, just having more control over it in general is going to be good, because you'll be able to tell if it whiffs. You can immediately pull back and try and make yourself safe. So there's that, you know, more controllability, more versatility. It's a nice change, assuming it works the way I think it does. Blowback direction now matches the direction Faust is facing. This is huge. I cannot recall the amount of times I've hit my opponent with mix only for them to be launched out of the corner and for me to be put into the corner. This change will make it so if, say, your opponent bounces off the wall and they hit the backside of mix, which does happen not super often, but it can happen often, they will be launched in the direction Faust is facing, so they will always be thrown back into the corner rather than out of the corner. This is really good for Faust, just for consistency's sake. Another good change to this that might, again, I'm reading into these mix changes a lot, so this might not actually be a thing, but if it throws the opponent in the direction Faust is facing, this might make cross-up mix loops way more easy to do. So if you've played Faust and you do a command grab, and you do an instant air dash into mix to do a cross-up, when mix ends, it launches the opponent backwards away from Faust. But with this change, it's going to throw them into Faust. So I'm going to assume that mixed loop cross-ups from this could very much be improved, at least more easy and more consistent to do. I'm hoping that's the case. Again, I'm probably reading too much into this, but this could affect mixed loop cross-ups, which is really good. If it does. I'd love it if it does. Okay, the final hit during the active frames now has the same properties regardless of the number of hits. Huh. I don't think this is worded too well because it's a little bit ambiguous. It doesn't really tell you what the properties are, because mix has a couple of properties. It has the mix loop bounce, it has the OTG bounce, and it has a hard knockdown. So I presume that's what it means by the properties. So if that is the case, I think what this is implying is that you're going to be able to get mix loops regardless of how many hits mix connects with. So say if the first two hits of mix don't connect because they're too far away and you only hit with the last two, you still can get a mix loop? Maybe? Or possibly you might be able to get mix loops in situations where you normally can't get them. So if you don't know, when you play Faust now, depending on how many times you hit your opponent before you go into mix, it alters whether or not if you can do a mix loop. Regardless of the number of hits, that phrase there could potentially apply to Faust being able to get mix loops from longer combos. Normally, if you hit your opponent more than once or twice before you go into mix, you can't get mix loops outside of like certain situations like a 5p anti-air and stuff like that. So maybe you can get mix loops more often in combos you normally can't get them in. That's the only thing I can really take from this. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's it. But if that is it, that's really good for Faust, because more mix loops means more damage. It means more reward from your normals. It means bigger combos, better screen carry. It's all around. If that is what it is, that's a really significant buff for Faust. And I'll take that. I'll take that all day long. I'm definitely going to have to test these, because the way they're worded is a little bit difficult to interpret. It's a little bit difficult to get a good understanding of how they're going to work in-game. But if it works the way that I think that it does, and again, I've probably overread into this, this could fix mix. In all honesty, it could make this move way better. But it's definitely going to need some testing. Okay, Banana Peel. Banana Peel can no longer hit multiple characters at the same time. This isn't a nerf. Outside of Zato, I don't really see this situation happen at all. It's like super rare. It never happens. This isn't a nerf. It's like, it's whatever. I don't care. Afro Explosion. Added Guard Crush effect. Oh my god. Oh, Faust's Afro pressure is going to be nuts. How many guard crushers does Faust have now? He has Afro Love Bag, he has Afro Explosion, he has Weight, he has Meteors, he has 4 guard crushers now. 4 guard crushers. But this is good because if you structure your pressure right to end your pressure as the Afro explodes, you get plus frames. So hypothetically, if you do something like command grab and then you do a safe jump D into close S jump slash heavy slash mix mix mix, that will end at about the same time the Afro detonates. Now this does make you plus currently, but with the guard crush moves are insanely plus. You're going to be plus a lot when this happens, like plus 12 or something like that. You're going to be really plus. Way more plus than what you currently are. So after the opponent gets guard crushed, you can go back into your strike throw mix and keep reinforcing your pressure, which you can kind of do now, but you won't be able to do it as strong as what this change is going to make it be. So this is really good, this guard crush change. It's really good for Faust. Also, if you structure your pressure in a different way, you can use the guard crush to pull an item. Normally, if you do this with normal Afro explosion, it doesn't work, because they will recover from the Afro explosion before you recover from item toss, so they're effectively plus. So unless you pull a good item that can cover you like hammer, it's usually to your disadvantage. But with this guard crush, you might be able to pull an item and recover before your opponent does, if you structure your offense right. So this is going to lead to some interesting new like pressure routes with Faust, trying to take advantage of the guard crush. It's a really strong change. Meteors. Added ground bounce effect. Okay, so we get meterless conversions off of meteors now. Okay. One of Faust's strongest items has just been buffed for no reason. I'll take it. I will take it. Meterless conversions from meteors. Blowback direction now matches the direction the meteors are falling in. Right, so basically they'll be launched in the direction that the meteors are heading. So if they go from left to right, they'll be launched to the right. So this is going to be really good for the new Scarecrow change, because if they get hit by the meteors, you can convert from Scarecrow without needing to spend meter on it like you currently do. So meterless conversion routes? Yay! I'll take it. I'll take it. Mini Faust. Oh yes, this one's a good one. Hitbox now activates directly after coming into contact with the opponent or being attacked. So if you don't know what this means, when Mini Faust activates now, he has a bit of a startup. So he goes Rage Mode, turns Super Saiyan, and then command dashes across the screen and hits the opponent. That's what he does. But there's a set time between him activating and him flying across the screen and hitting his opponent. That time has been substantially reduced. Basically, almost instantly, from what this is telling us, almost instantly after being hit, he will activate and go ballistic. So this is going to be really good in pressure routes, because say you do 2k2d item toss, you'll be able to do close S, push the opponent onto Mini Faust, and then immediately pull an item. Maybe you'll have to do close S 5H, I haven't tested it, obviously, but you'll be able to do either close S item toss or close S 5H item toss, and your opponent won't be able to do jack about it. They'll have to block the Mini Faust. And because the Mini Faust hits multiple times, you might even have time after Mini Faust has hit your opponent to take advantage of whatever item you pulled. So again, it's another situation where Faust can pull items at ranges where he can actually use the items effectively. Mini Faust is going to be nuts. Absolutely nuts. I can see a lot of people hate, well, people already hate Mini Faust because he's already a good item, but now he's super strong item. Scarecrow. Yes, buff Scarecrow please. This move is so blech. It's without meter, this move sucks. Now only charges if the same button used to activate the attack is held. Okay, so it doesn't charge anymore, so that must mean it has a much faster startup, because even the base version of Scarecrow, the fast version, still has a charge of a sort, because it has like a 60 odd frame startup. Scarecrow punch and kick versions now launches the opponent higher. This change is going to be very useful in conjunction with items. So if you're able to hit your opponent with a punch or kick version of Scarecrow and launch them into a bomb explosion, because it launches them higher now, you're going to get conversion routes from it. I could also assume that this is going to work very well in the corner, in that you're going to get maybe a wall bounce, maybe you can convert from it with normals. You might need to spend meter still, but it's still a really good change, especially just being able to use this in conjunction with items to get combos is really good. Reduced attack startup. Okay, this is the big change, really. They want Scarecrow to be able to surprise the opponent, so based on that, I'm assuming it's going to have a 21 to 26 frame startup. At most, it's going to have a 26 frame to 30 frame startup, I would say. If it goes beyond the 30 frame startup, I don't think it will be able to surprise the opponent the way they want it to. So if it has, say, let's take the average and say it has a 26 frame startup, you will be able to surprise your opponent with this, hit them with it, knock them into an item, bomb, trumpet wave, meteors, anything basically that can combo into it. That will hit them, and then you might be able to convert from that with your normals. This is all obviously speculation. We don't know yet how this is going to work, but this has a lot more utility now based on a faster startup and it launching the opponent than what it currently does, because you can actually use it without using meter. So again, this is less meter needed, more damage, more conversion ability, more utility. I can't really say any more than that. These buffs that Scarecrow is getting are really significant. Scarecrow all versions. Attack animation now begins when the button is released. Okay, this to me is after you've teleported and the Scarecrows rise from the floor, the Scarecrow that you've chosen will activate almost instantly after they have risen. I think that's what it means, or it's going to be maybe a couple frames, but it's going to be very quick after the Scarecrows have risen from the ground. I assume it's going to be reactively punishable. Your opponent will still be able to mash to stop the Scarecrow, but it's going to be a hell of a lot quicker than what it currently is. Again, it's just a really significant buff. I wonder how charged Scarecrow is going to fare now with the, uncharged version getting so many buffs. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see to see if anything comes from the charged Scarecrow. Charged Scarecrow hasn't really been buffed here, but because the uncharged version has, it might create some opportunities where the charged Scarecrow is more useful. Thrust, reduced frontal hurtbox. Again, I'm just going to assume that this means thrust is going to be more disjointed than it currently is. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be disjointed enough that it doesn't lose to 6p at max range. Pretty please. Faust's Faust's thrust already is disjointed, slightly, but it still loses to 6p, you see? It is technically disjointed, but it still loses to 6p, so if they pull this back, like say to the tip here, where my mouse is, they pull it back to about here, that will probably be enough to stop this move from losing to 6p at max range, and that will be a very, very nice quality of life improvement. No longer spamming 6p. This with the thrust change and the jump H change and the 5k change, Faust's screen control is going to be a lot better now than what it currently is, so this is a really nice buff. This thrust change was one I actually wanted and I mentioned in my buff video. It wasn't an essential change I wanted, but it's a very, very nice change to have. More ways I can counter 6p, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Love bag, okay. Increased damage on initial hit. That's just a very nice change. You can't combo from regular love bag, and this will also apply to Afro love bag, so that will also do more damage. But this change just makes regular love bag do a little bit more damage, so it's a little bit more rewarding as a screen control option. This is a good change for me because I overuse love bag a lot, so getting a little bit more damage from it is a nice change. Projectile now appears even when the move is roll and cancelled at an earlier point than before. Right, this change here I didn't think much of when I first read it, but I think this change works in conjunction with J2K. So if you've played Faust for a while, you know high J2K is extremely bad. it's really punishable. You're in a counter hit state for decades if you do anything after it. You know, if you do J2K into mix, it loses to 6p. If you do high J2K into love bag, it can lose to 6p. Your opponents can run under the love bag, they can jump over the love bag. It's not particularly useful, but with this, projectile now appears even when the move is run and cancelled at an earlier point than before. You might be able to do J2K into love bag into fast backdash PRC into a jump normal to cover the approach options your opponent uses. So if you're playing against Giovanna and she likes to dash under it, you might be able to do fast backdash PRC into jump dust to catch her going under it, or do a jump HS to catch her trying to jump over it. It's not like, I don't know if this buff is going to be super impactful, but it's kind of like a safety option, I think. Right? That's the way I'm kind of perceiving it. It's a safety option because you can PRC the move and still have the projectile come out. So that's my take on it, right? It's a safety option if you ever use this move in a situation where it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna die for this. You just PRC it and get out of it. And still have the projectile there to cover you. So it's a nice quality buff. I'm going to have to test this to see what kind of application it has. It could have some interesting applications that I'm not aware of right now, but it's still a decent change. Bone Crushing Excitement. Expanded upper hitbox. Yes. This move was garbage, but having the upper hitbox extended is a really nice change. You'll be able to use this move more often to wall break. If you wall splat the opponent too high, you can't always use Bone Crushing Excitement to get the wall break, which happens quite often with Faust because a lot of his combos require height. You usually have your opponent quite high in the air, so this buff will allow Faust to wall break using his super more often in his combo routes. It might also stop people just trying to jump over it, although I don't really think this is going to make much of a difference there. It will also help in certain combo routes, especially in the corner. If you've played Faust for a while, you know if you do something like 5k anti-air into 6H and then you immediately go into Bone Crushing Excitement Super, the super misses because the 6H bounces them over the super. You have to manually delay the Bone Crushing Excitement Super input in order to catch them as they're falling from the 6H. If the upper hitbox is expanded enough, you might not have to delay this anymore. You might be able to just go into it and have it connect, which is a nice change. Blowback direction now matches the direction Faust is facing. I've never had this switch sides, so I didn't know that was a thing. It's never happened to me from what I can recall, so I guess that's a nice buff, but I never knew that happened. Faust is now closer to the opponent after the cinematic ends. This is good for Oki, and this is also good for like OTG. You can hit your opponent OTG after the super normally, but if you're too far away, the OTG doesn't connect, so that's a nice change. I'm interested to see if this could lead to potential like Okizeme situations from it. I don't know if it will. It depends how close you are to them, but if you can get Oki from hitting your opponent with Bone Crushing Excitement Super, that would be a really good change. I don't think these changes to the super are massively impactful. They're just nice quality of life improvements to make it more useful and more consistent. But that's all the Faust changes. There's a lot of them. They're all buffs as far as I'm concerned. Every single one is a buff except for the banana peel, which isn't a nerf. I expect Faust on June 10th to be a much different character than what he currently is. It really depends on Scarecrow for me. Like, how can you use this new special? It's not a new special technically, but the change to it is going to cause it to have so much more utility. It's going to create a lot more opportunities, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this new version of Scarecrow is going to work. But yeah, Faust is definitely not bottom tier anymore. He's definitely not bottom tier. These buffs are massive for him. Absolutely huge. I cannot wait for June 10th to start labbing this. I hope you're all excited as I am. I hope you found this video informative or helpful in some way. If I'm wrong about anything I've said, or you've seen anything that I might have missed, you know, like any potential cool stuff you can get from this that I haven't mentioned, leave it in the comments. I'll be really interested to find out. Faust is definitely no longer lost. Thanks for watching.